So if I never informed you guys, I started watching the Bloodline story in 2025 because during the time when it was actually happening, I was not watching wrestling. So maybe what I am about to say is me being a prisoner of the moment compared to someone who may have watched it live. And I've shared my thoughts with you all about the possibility of a Bloodline reunion. And personally, if they return to the same old storyline of the Bloodline story, I personally don't want to see it. In my opinion, if we were to go back to that same dynamic, it would completely scrap the character development of the Usos. And to my knowledge, Jimmy Uso hasn't even had his own run yet, which is absolutely insane. Going back to being Roman's lackeys and pledging their undying allegiance to somebody who has proven that they really don't want the best for them, there would be no point to that. But the only thing that would make a Bloodline reunion more appealing to me is if it is an actual group, not just Roman and his henchmen. Before, I feel like it was always about Roman. The Usos were just there to do everything that Roman told them to, or to make sure that everything went Roman's way. And whenever Jimmy or Jay opposed him, it didn't fly. And the fact that Roman is now supposedly taking orders from Jay, it shows that the dynamic can definitely change. This could be the perfect time to form the structure of a bloodline to where Roman actually sees the Usos as equals. And maybe there is a possibility that the Usos, specifically Jay, could turn their backs on Roman and the bloodline as a whole. And here's why I think that. Even though the Usos seem to be still cool with Roman Reigns, within their confrontations with CM Punk, they have made it very clear that it has nothing to do with Roman. Plus, from this segment, it still seems like Roman is asserting himself as the leader anyway. He still kind of has this do what I say energy. He tells Jimmy, get your brother and get out of my ring. But after being rage baited by Punk, Jay completely disregards everything that Roman says and goes after Punk anyway. But even when Jimmy is trying to reel Jay back in and trying to get him to calm down, he's telling him, yo, leave CM Punk to the OTC. And Jay Uso ironically reinforces a point that CM Punk and many other people have stated before. He says Roman ain't even here, but I am. And don't y'all think it's weird that Jay Uso was so quick to take Punk up on his offer for a shot at his title? He didn't even care that Roman is supposed to be the one to face CM Punk for that title at Mania. And this is where CM Punk comes into play. Because let's revisit the beginning of this segment. Remember when Jimmy would warn Punk about choosing his words wisely because his brother was on a war path? Y'all remember that backstage? If you look at Punk back in that segment, he's looking like, oh, really? How convenient of you to tell me this right now. And he just laughs as he exits Gorilla. And even after going through the table, he's just laughing and he says, I'm not the one that needs help. And I do think that Roman, since the beginning of this feud, has been unfazed no matter what CM Punk does, no matter what CM Punk says. But can we say the same about Jay Uso or any other member of the bloodline? I don't know. Maybe Punk has an extra trick up his sleeve. We just will have to see. So Jade has officially formed a faction named the Takeover, comprised of her, Michin, and b-fab. First off, while I'm not a huge fan of the content of the promo within itself, I am so glad that Jade's character finally has an identity. And before, I've stated that I just felt like there was really nothing to Jade's character. We knew that she was a heel, she looked good, and she was that. But now we actually have insight into her character. We know that she doesn't care about wrestling or the business of the WWE. She claims the business does not make her, she makes the business because of her popularity. Again, I don't necessarily love the content behind it, but at least her character has an angle now. And I really like the idea of this faction for multiple reasons. Number one, I really love b-fab and Michin. There has been some propaganda going around that my girls are trash and that they can't wrestle, and I'm not falling for none of that. I love that they will be able to be put in the spotlight more, which could potentially put them in a title opportunity in the future. Another reason being that this feud between Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill leading up to WrestleMania so far, respectfully, has been a snooze fest. rest. It needed something to shake things up. And I do think this works well for Jade because she will look more like a threat without even having to really do anything. Her henchmen can do all the heavy lifting. And I really think this faction would help Rhea's character also, because the big thing that people have been complaining about is that Rhea is overbooked. She's always booked to look very powerful, and whoever is associated with her in that feud is booked to look weaker. She will have to, hypothetically, go through 3 people to win this title. And let's just keep it real. When you look at this match, you instantly think, oh, Rhea's going to win. There was absolutely no way that Jade was going to beat Rhea Ripley clean and walk out WrestleMania as the women's champion. But now that she has a faction, it's way more realistic. Now, although I do like that this faction was formed, how it was formed, not so much. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that there was no storytelling whatsoever, because b-fab and Michin have ties with Jade ever since she was feuding with Naomi last year. And I understand that there's this whole thing of, if you can't beat them, join them. And believe me, I get that. But there were so many weeks where Jade was doing nothing. You mean to tell me that there was no room for the development of this faction during her feud with Jordynne Grace? There are so many segments where Jade would just walk up to b-fab and Michin and just talk trash. You mean to tell me you couldn't do it then? But then we get a behind the scenes of a behind the scenes of a behind the scenes of Jade and b-fab, and that's just what we're supposed to go off of for the formulation of this trio? I'm sorry, in my humble opinion, that is just lazy storytelling, but I like the faction nonetheless. So Braun Breaker is definitely returning before WrestleMania, right? If you were not aware, Braun Breaker has been out since February due to a hernia-related injury, which would cause him to need surgery. And I just did a quick Google search and it said hernia surgery recovery typically takes 3 to 6 weeks, with most patients returning to light activities within a few days to a week. While basic daily activities can resume quickly, strenuous exercise and heavy lifting over 15 to 20 pounds should be avoided for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And of course, Paul Heyman wasn't going to face Seth Rollins, so who else was it going to be, realistically? Bronson Reed is also absent, and to be completely honest, I think injuries have completely dismantled this whole Vision storyline, and I think they're just doing the best with what they have. Obafemi has officially answered Brock Lesnar's open challenge for a match at WrestleMania. I'll keep this sweet and simple for you guys, and as a member of the Oba Feminist Committee, Obafemi has to win this match, and not only does he have to win, he has to dominate. In my heart of hearts, I truly want to say that Obafemi should squash Brock Lesnar, but I know that won't happen realistically. But then again, this is the same man that since the 2010s has relatively done nothing, but can come out of nowhere and end the Undertaker streak and squash John Cena twice, once in his retirement tour. So what even is the standard anymore? At this point in Brock's career, he has nothing else to prove, so he should be putting over talent like Obafemi. So those are my takes on the progress of certain storylines heading into WrestleMania. I want to hear from you guys. How do you guys think that some of these storylines are going to play out? Like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.